Hey everyone, this is Matt Martin with Outdoor Designs. I wanted to talk about something that's going on locally to our area, and this is going to turn into a giant rant, but it's an important one for all of us in the green industry, no matter where you're at. So I'll start by saying Knoxville is on a push to becoming a more progressive city, so we have to compete with the likes of Nashville. Nashville kind of overshadows Knoxville. Knoxville has the University of Tennessee here, which is fantastic, and there's actually a lot of industry here. However, we're overshadowed by Nashville and the amount of money there, but we don't have to be, and a lot of that comes down to the overall aesthetics of Nashville and the efficiencies in planning that take place there. So locally here in Knoxville, and this is in the city, it doesn't apply to the county, Knox County in general, but as we are inviting more and more businesses into town, and developments are taking place all over the city, from apartment complexes to new Lowe's and Home Depots and massive sprawls of shopping centers. These out-of-town contractors are brought in for the planning, design, and construction phases of these developments. They are also doing the landscape installations, which is no problem. I mean, that's a common occurrence everywhere you go. That can't be expected to be passed down to the local guys. That's fine. However, the amount of shoddy, crappy work that takes place during the installation and planning phase is so rampant that it's becoming an issue on many fronts. Not only is it an issue aesthetically, it's an issue for its intended purpose, whether that's for stormwater control, parking lot water remediation, or just the fact to provide shade or improve air quality in areas. Our landscapes are not able to achieve that in these new developments because of the crap work, the crap plant selection that takes place during the construction phase. So how does this relate back to the green industry locally? The problem lies when we are brought in as a maintenance contractor and we have to fix the mistakes and the garbage work from these giant developers, and oftentimes we can't due to improper planning practices, poor soil during the construction phase, and the plants never make it to their intended size or specifications. So for instance, when the 3-gallon plant is planted and in 2 years it's 80% dead, it's us, the maintenance contractors, us in the green industry, that look like the bad guys, that we weren't able to keep up with all these beautiful plants that look just so gorgeous when they were put in. When the fact of it is that it had nothing to do with us. We did everything we were supposed to do. We did everything in our contract that we laid out. The row of 330 auto lukens that were put in the ground were planted in a bed of limestone with no soil volume whatsoever. It was root bound from hell. It was dry when it was put into the ground with no plans to keep it watered, and as a result the plant ends up dying within 6 months to a year to 2 years, or as that plant attempts to mature, there's no soil volume for it to mature, and then it croaks, and it's like, well, clearly the yard boys were out here and they trimmed it wrong, or I think they hit it with a weed eater wrong, and don't get me wrong, that happens, but 80% of the issues that we run into on maintenance contracts like that have nothing to do with cultural practices. What it has to do with is pre-construction planning, plant selection, planting techniques. All that contributes to, like I said, 80% of the demise of plants that I see going on. The number of plants that I dig up and look at the root ball and how bound and girdled it is, and how they dug a hole smaller than the actual root ball of the 3-gallon plant and then stomped it into the ground to make it fit, and then buried it in mulch and called it good because it looked good at the time of installation, because it's got, hey, look, it's got 4 inches of mulch on it. The mulch is all clean and tightened up along the edges, and the plant's got green leaves all over it, and it's dead in 2 years. That's horse shit. So we catch the bad rep for that. Now, thanks to the tree board here in Knoxville, legislation is being proposed by the planning committee to have more regulations over parking lots and landscapes of these developments, which is nice. That's nice. However, the literature the issue we're running into is in the verbiage, where there's no real plan for inspection, there's no real plan for enforcement. So what happens is basically all this legislation becomes is a suggestion, just a giant suggestion for these developers to follow. It's not something they have to do. And so what we're going to run into is the exact same issue. If you go to towns like the city of Nashville, Franklin, Tennessee, Germantown, Tennessee, back in Memphis, Collierville, Tennessee, there is a horticulturalist on staff that is the city's or the county's landscape architect that makes sure it inspects and enforces the code during these landscape installations during development. Otherwise, these people can't get their bonds back in the development. I know in Germantown, closer to Memphis, when you did an installation, you had to put up a bond, and your bond was not released until it passed the horticulturalist inspection. And Germantown is a gorgeous city. So basically what this big long rant is that it's important for us as professionals to pay attention what's going on in our in politics related to the green industry, because we are hardworking professionals. We are not your average guy that knows nothing about plants and is out with a weed whacker and a lawnmower. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a part of the green industry, and that's a part of our economy. There's nothing wrong with that. But as landscape professionals, the people that make a genuine career out of this and want to have a hold in our local community and be a front runner as far as being a voice for the green industry in our local economy, it's important that we pay attention to things like this, because what happens is, again, we get turned into the yard boy. And people look at us and say, oh, well, what does he know? He just trims shrubs. What does he know? He just spreads fertilizer. What does he know? He just runs a weed whacker. Negative. There's a lot more that goes into it than just that. That's only the aesthetic part of it. The planning part that goes into this is, why do we have a specific number of plants around a sewer drain in the middle of a parking lot? Do they realize that filters all that oil and runoff from the parking lot before it reaches our storm drains? Do they understand that helps clean water make its way back into our water system? And that's what landscaping does. That's the whole point of us being in business, is that there is a legitimate science, there is a legitimate purpose for everything we do, and we should get more credit than that than just being a general laborer that got out of jail and couldn't get another job. Sure, some of us exist that way, but for every person that exists that way, there's also another person that got out of jail, couldn't find a job, buried his face in a book about landscaping, learned everything that he possibly could about it, and made a genuine career and footprint in his local economy and his local politics as far as being a positive impact on his community. We exist out here like that. And so we don't deserve to be swept under the rug because some bullshit out-of-town developer comes in, throws plants in the ground, and then we get stuck with the aftermath like we fucked it all up. Anyway, I'm very passionate about it because it's not often that I see myself or other guys that work for us or friends of mine in the industry get treated like garbage, but I know it happens and we don't deserve to be because, you know, however many of us take this up as a side project, we take it up as a side project or a full-time job because we fall in love with it. And I think that goes for anybody. I think that goes for any of you watching my YouTube videos. You watch YouTube videos in one instance to learn, but for the other instance, it's because you enjoy it. I do what I do because I enjoy it. I started out wanting to go to school to be an engineer, and then the minute I started this, especially with the chemical applications, I fell in love with it and knew that is what I wanted to do. And it's not glamorous, you know. I don't sport a sexy tan. I've got one mean, badass farmer's tan from hell. That is, and I'm proud of it. And you know, people ask me what I do for the living. I say I work in the landscape industry. I work in the green industry, and because I'm proud of it. Damn it. You know, I'm not going to make $1 million this year. I'm not going to make $1 million next year. I will go my entire life and never make $1 million. But I'm going to wake up every day learning something new that keeps my mind occupied, that keeps my brain sharp. I'm going to wake up every day and get to talk to somebody new at their home residence. I don't know. I can't speak highly enough about us as an industry, the positive impact we play on local economies, and then the science behind why we do what we do and how, you know, we get, you know, graded down to the whole reason of our existence is aesthetics. But we are so much more than just giving somebody a pretty picturesque, you know, product to look at. You know, we're doing great things for the environment. Trees do amazing things for the environment. How many trees do you put in the ground in a year? I know we put a lot of trees in the ground every year. What are those trees going to do for the environment? If they're in the ground for 1 year and then they die, they're not going to do anything for the environment. If they're in the ground for 5 years and become mature trees, they're going to do tremendous things for the environment. How much does turf grass play as far as providing a benefit to the environment? A huge part. Turf grass is going to do everything from prevent erosion to remediate water. That's a big part of it. And we get overlooked for that, and we don't deserve to be. We deserve to be respected as an industry just as much as anybody else. No, we don't build buildings. You know, no, we're not erecting, you know, street lights. We're not building combustion engines. But we're doing things equally as important in different aspects of life. I could end my rant there, but I'm not going to. There is a Lowe's parking lot here in town, and because these regulations do not exist, preventing people to make just huge mistakes regarding, you know, these development works, there are maple trees planted all through the parking lot. The developer decided that there were too many leaves in the parking lot and wanted all the maple trees topped. And if you're not familiar with topping a tree, that's where you come in and you literally cut the top out of the tree. This is probably the single worst practice that you can perform on any tree in the world is to top it. No matter how great of a cut you make, you've now got a flat surface at the dominant stem of the tree. Or even if you cut it at an angle, again, you're making a giant pruning wound to the dominant stem of the tree. Trees want to grow which way? Upward. So the most uppermost growing part of the tree you cut. Now the tree has to divert all that energy into finding a new branch, a new way to send water and nutrients for that tree to grow upright. Anyway, what's going to happen now that these trees are topped? We just basically they just put a lifespan on the trees in the parking lot. Now that those trees have a lifespan, now that they're topped out, they're never going to foliate like they were intended to foliate. For the whole reason the landscape architect designed that the way it was, for those trees to become as mature as they possibly could in the amount of soil volume that was given to them, and to provide shade, to provide fresh air, to remediate waste water in the parking lot from the oils and whatnot. That's the whole premise of those trees being there, to provide shade. I think I already said that, but that's why those trees were put there. Now that they're topped out, they're never going to foliate like they were intended to, and they're never going to produce the amount of oxygen that they were intended to. And we've also given them a lifespan that will kill those trees. It may take 3 years, it may take 1 year, it may take 5 years, but we just significantly shorten the lifespan of that tree. Why? Because there's no regulations in place to look at something like that and realize that the whole point of those trees being there was just completely destroyed. And what happens? We end up looking like the bad guys. Ultimately, it was us that did the work, and I guarantee you, of all the tree companies they called in, if I had to guess, I would say if they called and got 4 bids, I would say 3 of them, maybe two said, no, we do not recommend topping the trees. But they found somebody that would top the tree for the sheer fact of managing leaf volume. Instead of coming up and doing a canopy reduction of 30%, which is going to do the exact same thing, but preserve the integrity of the tree and allow it to serve its purpose as a freaking tree. I don't know. I'm talking in circles at this point, but pay attention to what's going on. Look, I understand nobody wants government reaching into the little intricacies of their life, but for us to exist as professionals, sometimes we're going to have to team up with the government for the greater benefit of what's going on in our industry, because we get overlooked time and time and time again as genuine professionals. We get looked as day laborers and complete garbage, when in fact that we've made a career investment to our families, to our customers, to our peers, to provide a quality service. And we put time, and how much sweat do we put into a given year doing what we do? How many people would give up their job to do what we do? And how many of us gave up our job to do what we do because we enjoy it? So I'm done. I'll leave it at that. Pay attention to what's going on in your local politosphere, because I do not want Knoxville to turn in. I want Knoxville to be the gorgeous city of Tennessee. I want Knoxville to be not overlooked as a low rent Nashville option. I want Knoxville to carry the same weight as Asheville, North Carolina, or Raleigh, North Carolina, that are really beacons of the South as far as being great cities for families and for growth and career opportunities. And the more we can provide that aesthetic benefit while still providing the scientific, and if we can make a balance between the aesthetics and the science of the whole reason for our landscapes, then having a beautiful landscape that serves a purpose is going to invite in more businesses. Because I believe the study out of Virginia Tech was a well-groomed landscape is going to increase property values by 12.5%. There's also scientific data that shows the development shopping centers with high aesthetic value is going to encourage more people to shop there, more people to visit, more people willing to spend their money, because it's going to enlighten their mood before they even step foot into the business. And that's what purpose we serve from the aesthetic part, and also from the science part, that we're going to provide shade, we're going to remediate water, we're providing a positive impact to the environment, we're providing, and as a result of that, we're providing a positive impact to the local economy, because people are going to be more engaged to spend more money there because it's prettier and it's psychosomatic, that it's uplifted them. And that's their whole reason for wanting to go in and even go look at that dress that they've wanted, or hey, how many times do you pass by a Best Buy and it's in a gorgeous shopping center? You're like, well, I think I'll just run in and price that TV. And psychologically, that may have happened because of the landscape that exists outside and the amount of beauty. It makes it look inviting. That's why we're out here. That's why we do what we do. And we need to embrace that as a green industry community. And we need to spread that knowledge to not just to homeowners. We need to spread that knowledge to our politicians. We need to spread that knowledge to developers that are coming into the area, that's why it's important we exist. So anyway, continue taking pride in the work you do, because there's a reason why we do what we do, and it's more than just making things pretty. We get the satisfaction out of making things pretty. We get the satisfaction of getting to see the fruits of our labor, but we should also get the satisfaction out of the science behind why we do what we do. And we should get the satisfaction of getting paid for what we do and getting to look like the good guys for making things beautiful. But we can't have that happen if we're trying to clean up somebody's mess 100% of the time. There's times that's gonna exist, but that shouldn't be the whole purpose of what we do. So anyway, y'all, I'm sorry for the crazy long video and the giant rant, but I'm very passionate about my industry. I'm very passionate about the work that we all do, because there are so many great people that there's 1,000 great people for the 5 shitty people that are in our industry, and we should be recognized for being what we are. And that's we're pillars of our community. We're pillars of our economy, whether people want to accept it or not, whether they want to call us yard boys or not. It's important for us to be here, and we should take pride in that. I love you guys, each and every one of you in the industry. I love you all. Thanks.